Hey, what's up everyone? I hope you guys are doing awesome and welcome back to Dad's Budget Bites, that kitchen where budget meets flavor. They come together so good. At the end of our last video, we spun our game wheel here. We got dinner. That sets up today's theme. So what I'm going to be making for you all today is actually something very special to me. We're going to be making homemade meatballs and then also a homemade pasta sauce to go along with that. My family loves it. I made it a number of times. It's always a hit. Hopefully you and your friends and family like it as well. So stay tuned and let's get into it. And let's cook. Okay, ladies, fellas, I hope you all came hungry today, and here's what we're going to be using to put together these homemade meatballs and pasta sauce with. So first off, for the meatballs, we have ground beef, Italian seasoned breadcrumbs, some steak seasoning, and then grated Parmesan cheese. And then for the sauce, we have about 20 ounces of crushed tomatoes, about 8 ounces of fire roasted diced tomatoes. I like adding the two together. And then we have some parsley, some oregano, and some basil, garlic powder to taste, about 1.5 teaspoons of jarred garlic, 1 medium-sized garlic clove, some red pepper flakes, medium-sized onion, and then just go with your favorite pasta to kind of put everything together. So I went with a standard-sized box of penne pasta. And also salt and pepper to taste. We're going to start off with the fun, messy part first. We're going to make the meatballs. So we're form them, shape them, cook them, set them aside until we need them, and then get going with the sauce. So I have a pound of ground beef here. I went with 80-20. I actually went with the nicer grass-fed ground beef. They had a good sale. Otherwise, any sort of ground beef works well. 85-15 works good too for meatballs. So this is 80-20. The breadcrumbs, steak seasoning, and Parmesan cheese are not to scale. I made this a number of times, but I never been much of a recipe follower. So I'm just going to add what I add. Be sure to check out the video description for more precise amounts. So this is about 1/3 of a cup of breadcrumbs. So I'm going to add, about half. You're not looking to make a meatloaf here. So that's about half. Maybe we'll do a little bit more, maybe a little bit less. I have about 1/8 of a cup of Parmesan cheese. So again, about half. And the same with the steak seasoning. So that's probably a few pinches worth of steak seasoning. Mix this together. I go by touch. If it feels good, then you know you got the mix right. Mix, mix, mix. You want to make sure you incorporate the Parmesan cheese and the breadcrumbs as best as you can right into the ground beef. So I am going to add just a little bit more Parmesan and just a little bit more breadcrumbs. If you make a little opening, like a little bird's nest kind of, it kind of mixes together a little quicker. So some breadcrumbs, some Parmesan, mix, mix, mix. All right, I think we got it good now. So I'll keep mixing this for another minute or so, and then we can get on to the next step. I almost forgot, salt and pepper to taste. Put some of that in. A little bit of salt, not too much. As much or as little as you want. So yeah, I'll take another minute or so to incorporate this, and then we can go on to the next step. It's all mixed well. Now it's time to shape the meatballs. You could do them as big or as small as you like. I like them, I guess, on the smaller side. So if you just kind of roll them in the palms of your hands, you usually end up with a pretty decent meatball. Fill any gaps or cracks that you see. All right, so there we go, one down. Hopefully you could see that. Boom, Put it there. Depending on how big we make these, we should end up with a dozen or so. Now this one went a lot quicker. Looking good. 2 down. If they're not all the same size, don't worry about it. You want to get them similar though. All right. So a minute ago I said on the smaller side. I guess I like them more on the medium side. These are about the size that you buy in the stores. Another one down. So I'll finish here and then we can get to cooking these. All right, everyone. So we ended up with 12 meatballs, all roughly the same size. So mission accomplished there. The hardest part's over, to me anyway, and it gets relatively easier at this point. So now you want to break out your favorite frying pan. This is always my go-to. You want to warm it on a medium heat with a little bit of olive oil or butter, or, I guess other types of oil also work fine. So I have about 1.5 tablespoons, I would say, of olive oil in here. And now it's time to brown these. This part's important. I'm going to skip ahead a little bit. So when we get to the sauce, you want to simmer the sauce for at least a good 15-20 minutes, all the way up to an hour if you have the time. So I'm going to do mine for probably about 45 minutes or so. So what I'm going to do is half cook the meatballs, because the meatballs get added to the sauce and then they finish cooking right in the sauce. So if you do it for only 15-20 minutes, say, then you probably want to fully cook your meatballs ahead of time. If you're going to simmer it longer, you could half cook them. So basically, I'm just looking to brown the outsides and start the cooking process in the middle as well, but mainly brown the outsides. All right. So we're going to cook these for probably about 3 or 4 minutes, maybe 5. So when these are about half cooked and the outside's nice and brown, then we can move on to the next step. And I had the pan heating on medium, so I was warming up the pan on medium heat. I did turn it down to slightly over 3 because I don't want to burn the meatballs, but I just wanted to get the pan nice and hot first. All right, everyone, so our fabulous balls of meat been cooking away here for about 4.5, maybe closer to 5 minutes. So you can see how the outside's nice and brown. The inside, if you bit into this or cut into it, would still be pretty pink, probably almost raw in the center. But that's fine because we're going to finish off the cooking with the slow simmer. If you're going to do a quick sauce, just make sure you fully cook your meatballs first. But yeah, 4.5, 5 minutes. Looks good to me. Now we can transfer these over. The bowl is clean. And then we can move on to the next step. Now it's time to start on the sauce. So the first thing you want to do is you want to peel and dice up your onion and then also your garlic. So we just want to cut the ends off. Get that outer peel. And then you cut it in half the up and down way. There we go. Watch your fingers. And then slice it the up and down way. All right, so that's mostly cut. Then at that point, we could just do some dicing. Some nice little chunks, as big or small as you want. I'm not the quickest onion cutter, but I try. So the onion's done. I'm kind of tearing up a little bit here. I'll do the other half after. And now for the garlic. So I have a medium-sized clove of garlic. I find that the easiest way to peel these is to give it a good smash, maybe a couple. Cut the ends off. And then that peel should come right off. There it is. So there's our garlic. If you do a little cut down the center, now you got two halves, and then just a quick little dice with that. Watch your fingers. All right, so the garlic is good. I decided to do a mixture of fresh garlic and jarred, so that's why I'm only using one medium clove. So I'll finish the onion, and then we can cook these and get on to the next step. So now we have our onion all diced up in small pieces, as big or small as you want. We have the garlic diced up as well. The pan's reheating. I'm using the same pan that I used to cook the meatballs with the same oil. It just adds another level of depth to the overall flavor. If you wanted to clean the pan and use a different one and re-add butter or oil, that's perfectly fine too. Now it's time to add the onions. So whenever you cook garlic, you don't want to burn that. So the garlic you want to add at the end. So we're going to give these a quick fry, a quick saute for, probably a few minutes. And then we'll add the garlic in for the last minute. So you want to do this on a medium to a medium high heat. It's getting some added color from the oil that we used to cook the meatballs with. Oh yeah. So it just adds another layer of depth, another layer of flavor to the overall finished product. That's looking good. Now it's time to add the garlic. And I'm going to turn this heat right off. Because yeah, again, burnt garlic tastes nasty. You don't want to burn it. The pan will stay plenty hot for another minute or so. So I'll take this off the heat in probably another 30-40 seconds, and then we can move on to the next step. Unfortunately, guys, I had a technical malfunction. So I thought this was recording and it wasn't, but no worries. We're just going to recreate the process. So I added 20 ounces of the crushed tomatoes. They do sell this fire roasted also. I like the fire roasted flavor. But if I went with all fire roasted, I find that that's a little bit too overwhelming. I like kind of combining the different flavors. So 20 ounces of regular crushed tomatoes, and then 8 ounces of fire roasted diced tomatoes. Those went in. And then we added the jarred garlic. So I had 1.5 teaspoons of jarred garlic. That's in. And now what I have here is a 1/2 teaspoon of parsley, a 1/2 teaspoon of oregano, and then a teaspoon of basil. These all work well together. The crushed tomatoes that I got already had some basil in it. If you're using just regular crushed tomatoes with no added basil or other seasoning, you might want to add another, 1/2 tablespoon or 1/2 teaspoon, of the basil. My crushed tomatoes already came with some basil, so I'm using 1 teaspoon. And then we got red pepper flakes and garlic powder to taste. So I'm just going to use a few red pepper flakes, just a little. So that's probably a couple pinches worth. And then the same with the garlic powder. So this is probably about a 1/2 teaspoon of garlic powder. I'm just going to add a few pinches worth. Now we could turn the heat back on, start with a medium. Once you start getting that simmer, you want to turn it down, keep that simmer going for as long as you can. And whenever you make your own sauce, and this goes for jarred sauce too, you do want to add water as you go. So we're going to have to add water to this. Even if you do a quick, 15-20 minute simmer, you're probably going to have to add some additional water. All right. So once this comes up to a simmer, I got my water running here. And you just want to add water as needed. If the pasta sauce gets too thick, you just want to drop some water in there. Because while it's simmering, it's going to keep cooking down, it's going to keep reducing, and the liquid's going to keep evaporating. Last thing for now, some salt and pepper to taste. So again, once this comes up to a simmer, you want to turn the heat down to whatever that magic number is on your stovetop to keep that simmer going. And then we can add the meatballs. So we add the meatballs right into the sauce. You know, you want to give it a little stir every like 6, 7, 8 minutes. And then you also want to rotate the meatballs as you go along too, especially if they're not fully cooked. If you're going to finish the cooking process in the sauce, you definitely want to make sure you rotate those every 6 or 7 minutes to make sure, you know, they're cooked through uniformly. So our sauce and the meatballs been simmering away now for, you know, about 13, 14 minutes. I rotated the meatballs a couple times, gave the sauce a little stir. When you stir the sauce, you just want to be careful because the meatballs are on the delicate side. So you don't want to do like a, you know, crazy hard stir. You just kind of want to go in between the meatballs. You know, you don't want to break those apart. It's kind of like that, you know, every 6, 7 minutes or so. Rotate the meatballs as well every 6 or 7 minutes, depending on how long you have it on for. So everything is cooked uniformly and cooked through. Our water for the pasta is just about to come to a boil. So I add a little bit of salt in the water. Just adds a little bit to the overall flavor. And then I put a little bit of olive oil in there too. Not much, maybe a teaspoon or so. And that helps with the sticking. So now we could add the pasta. This is a standard 16-ounce box of penne pasta. You could use whatever your favorite pasta is. I like penne. So you carefully add that so you don't splash boiling water on yourself. So that's in there. Once this comes up to a boil, turn the heat down to like a medium low or a medium heat, depending on what you need to keep that boil going. For me, I turn it down to about a 4. So once it starts boiling, I'll turn it down to about a 4, stir it occasionally, and this needs about 10 to 12 minutes, depending on how firm or soft you like your pasta. I like my pasta al dente on the firmer side, so this needs about 10 minutes or so, and that's done. And then once the simmer's done, we could add everything together. All right, friends, so our meatballs and pasta sauce been simmering away now for a good 45 minutes. So this should be just about perfect. The sauce is looking nice and thick, but not too thick. I did end up adding just under a half cup of water total. So just under a half cup of water. You know, it differs, you know, it's always gonna, you know, differ person to person, batch to batch. It's never an exact science. But yeah, the sauce looks great. The meatballs look great. Those are definitely cooked through. Now we can turn that heat off and add the pasta. So we add the pasta here. Add this slowly without hopefully making a mess. And now we want to give it one good stir. Without breaking apart the meatballs. The breadcrumbs and the Parmesan cheese help hold that together. You know, but they're still on the delicate side. They do get less delicate though as they cook more. So they're not as delicate now as they were to begin with. All right, make sure everything's nicely incorporated. Well, that's it, everyone. Homemade meatballs, homemade sauce. It looks great, it smells great, hopefully it tastes great. Hey ladies, fellas, everyone, we're at the best part of the video now where we get to taste what we made, see if our hard work paid off, if we could do anything better next time. Sometimes we're our own worst critic, other times we're our own best critic. You might make mistakes along the way, but that's just part of the learning process. You know, I'm still getting used to these videos in many ways, so there was a part earlier when I was first started making the sauce where I thought I was recording and I wasn't. So it happens, you know, what are you gonna do? So, I made this a few times already, so I'm sure it came out great, but let's give it a shot and see how we did. Before I do that though, show you guys a close-up. So yeah, look at that. I put what I could fit on this platter. I had the rest here. Plenty of pasta, sauce, and meatballs to go around. So now we could taste it and see how we did. Got to get some of that sauce. Sauce is boss. Get a meatball. Look at that. Oh, I'll just show you too. Just use my hands, it's easier. But yeah, if you look, we only half cooked the meatballs in the beginning, and now no pink. They're all fully cooked through from that slow simmer. Yeah. Messy hands. Piece of meatball. Pasta with some sauce. So good. Phenomenal. Very good. The jarred sauce is nice in a pinch. It's not like you're going to make your own sauce every time you have pasta or something like that. But if you do have the time to try your own sauce and or meatballs, you know, once you get going, it's not that hard. The hardest part, I would say, is mixing the meatball mix together and then forming them. Once you're past that, you know, it's not that bad. So, yeah, this is great. If you have the time, please try it. Let me know what you think. Give me your thoughts. Give me your feedback. Let me know how it went. And let me know if you would do anything differently. So now we're at the part of the video where we spin the wheel. This is going to set up our next video. We ended on dinner. That's what prompted us to make the homemade sauce and the meatballs today, along with the pasta. So now we'll give it a good old spin and see what we have in store for next time. All right, round and around. Where's that going to land? What is that, lunch? All right, we're doing something for lunch next time. Be sure to tune in for that. That'll be a good one. A couple ideas floating around. You know, I'm always thinking of something. So please join me next time for whatever we make for lunch. If you got anything out of this video, if you enjoyed it, you know, please hit that thumbs up. I do appreciate it. Hit that notification bell too. You know, share it with your friends and family. Drop me a comment. You know, I always like hearing your feedback. And if you haven't done so already, please subscribe. I do appreciate your support. And I hope to see you next time. So please join me next time, and I'll see you then. Bye, all.